that's been a challenge for me of like finding the soulmate in New York City. And then you start to go venture outside of it, especially through dating apps.
This is not a test.
Oh, you brought notes today?
Well, I sent you the one sheet.
No, I did. I took the test.
You took the test too?
Yeah.
Me too.
Are you also single?
No.
Okay, great. You can totally take the test not single.
Yeah.
Great. Well,
All my answers made it seem like I was single.
yeah. That's how it's written. But
Yeah.
Here we go.
I'm excited.
No,
how
me
did you
too.
two get hooked up for this?
He found me on, I had this one viral video in like November, and then he found.
I've been wanting to do a podcast
Yeah,
for a long time, but I always wanted somebody else in the room.
I agree.
You know what I mean? And it's harder than you think to like vibe with someone,
Yeah.
find someone who's like, you know, doesn't have their own podcast
Yeah.
going on, and a comedian, and who's attractive,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
and who's, well, I didn't mean the attract. I just was giving you a compliment.
Thank you.
And gay.
I was, and I'm bi.
Bisexual.
but-
Oh, I heard this. I watched the Jared Fried one.
Yeah.
Oh.
You were like, that was when I was gay.
Yeah,
Now
because
I'm
I was a
bi."
full
She
lesbian.
checks every box for me.
Like I started dating guys at 22. I just turned 25 last week. So I guess I'm a real bi.
Yeah, her boyfriend thing is new. All right, are we
And he's
rolling?
amazing though. He's been-
Okay. So right now we're here with Logan Ury. Thank you so much for joining us. I hate the formal intro. It's annoying. I usually don't do this. But Logan, I'm going to let you tell everybody who you are, but you're a behavioral scientist. And I'm really excited to talk to you because like I'm like the forever bachelor single guy that everybody makes fun of. So now we're going to break me down today. We also have a book called How to Not Die Alone, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because like I'm at this weird part of my life where I'm intentional dating. I'm 36 years old. No one believes me because they think like I still want to have fun. And I do. The stuff is fun out there. But what I always say to them is I say, I don't want to die alone.
Mhm.
Like and it always falls back on that. Like that's always like the winning argument for me, even in my own head. I'm like, because that might seem fun, but I don't want to die alone. So anyway, I'll hand it over to you. And can you just tell the people how you got here, a little bit about yourself and who you are?
Yeah. So I'm Logan. I work at Hinge as the director of relationship science. I wrote How to Not Die Alone, which is all about making better decisions in dating. So I love that you started with intentional dating because that's really the way it is. It's like, okay, I'm single and I don't want to be. What are all the steps that it would take to get me into a relationship? And that's what I work with people on in my book and as a dating coach and in my research at Hinge is just really helping people understand the psychology of why they haven't found someone and then how to make new behavior, get new patterns so that they can make different choices and then not die alone.
Yeah. Well, it's 2024. I feel like dating is a mess out there with all the apps. I'm like your perfect guinea pig to talk to. Me and Sienna both took your quiz online. Where can people go take that?
Oh yeah, it's loganury.com/quiz.
Okay.
And this is a framework I have called 3 Dating Tendencies. And so this is something I do a lot of coaching. And I was like, okay, all these people are pretty different, but they seem to have similar things holding them back. And it's these attitudes and behaviors that make it harder for them to find love. So should I guess what yours is?
You already know.
Oh, because you didn't tell me. Or
I didn't tell you, but I'm saying you probably
Yeah,
already
yeah.
know.
I'm sure yours was the maximizer.
Yes, it was a maximizer.
Yes.
Can you hold the mic a little
Oh, closer.
closer? Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
What's
How's
the
that?
maximizer?
You're not the maximizer?
Oh wait, did I get the? Oh, my results are here. I didn't
Yeah.
check.
Oh, well, tell me a little bit about you.
Okay, like how I date.
Yeah, like let's see if I can guess.
Mm,
She's not like me at all. So
I'm not as superficial as he is. Like I'll date ugly.
Like even just
Yeah, she
meeting
likes-
you, I'm gonna guess the romanticizer.
Yeah, for sure.
I
And
wanna
my
see your
boyfriend-
results. You're just saying
My
that.
boyfriend is a romantic too, and we met on Hinge.
Nice.
Yeah,
We love it.
I think the Hinge having the dating preference, like long term,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
changed the game for me.
it really has. And
Changed
the
so you could, like-
non-monogamy, monogamy.
Yeah, like
Ooh.
what you're literally looking for, like
Yeah.
and so like I was only matching with guys that want girlfriends.
So like intentional.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
I even feel like for you, if you were on Hinge, you could even play to the fact, like it was memorable when you said to me on the phone, I've been on 3 dating shows, which I didn't know. It's like, I've been on 3 dating shows, but now I'm really here to find love.
Yeah, but those weren't like I would have found love with them too if they casted anybody that I was remotely interested in.
Wait, why am I the maximizer? Oh,
See, I told you.
There we go. Okay, this is really great. We're going to dig into
I
this.
told you.
So I'll explain what the 3 are for people who don't know. So the romanticizer is somebody who's really focused on the soulmate, one person for life. I'll know it when I see it. I want to meet in a romantic way. They're very focused on the story and the we met. The maximizer is I want to see all my possible options and then choose the right perfect one. And even if I meet someone great, what else is out there? And then the hesitator is they're really not dating at all. They're like, I'll date when I lose weight. I'll date when I have a better apartment, a more impressive job. And so for them, it's like, I need to become somebody more lovable before I'll put myself out there. So you're both maximizers.
Yeah, but you're probably you weren't settling for, it wasn't about looks, but you want a guy that has like maybe makes a certain amount of money, that's successful.
Yeah, or like don't put your eggs in one basket, and then like because men tend to disappoint. You know, maybe it's more. But I also have OCD, and you also do as well.
Yes,
we both have
OCD.
Oh wow, yeah, I do think I have found that there's some relation there because there's even a type of OCD called OCDR. Have you come across this?
What does the R stand for?
It stands for relationship. So it's like actually some of the obsessive thoughts are actually about, is this the right relationship for me? Is this the right person? And I've had friends who have had that. And it's just really challenging because they're like, I can't tell if it's not the right person or if just like the OCDR is getting in the way. I just have sympathy for it.
For me, like this is all new because I was never ready to like look for a serious relationship. And I, even if I did have a little situationship with somebody, now looking back on it, I wasn't ready. I would just get into it.
Yeah.
I would fall into it thinking that's kind of what I wanted, but I still wanted to like party on yachts in Miami and stuff, you know? So I was, you know, I also have like a weird history with relationships and dating because of my show and because I was like traveling the country every weekend. I was living in Vegas for 6 weeks at a time, being a male stripper. It just all over the place. It was like hard for me to like find, but I never really even wanted it. Like if you would have asked me a couple of years ago, I would have said like, I don't even believe in marriage. You know, I just was that type of guy because I just loved all the options so much. But as I got older, I started to like realize the finality of life and also what I want to leave behind and my legacy. And it's just like they say in Sex and the City, like my taxi light cab, my taxi cab light came on and I feel I'm like, all right, like even though that life is still great, like this other option has to be the way to go because I don't really party anymore that much. And I want a companion, like life is getting harder as I get older. So it's all new to me, you know? So a lot of people have red flags about me because of that history that I have, but now I am in that other kind of zone. So do you see that a lot of like
you do have an unusual background.
I do, but like I feel like it's like entering different chapters of your life.
Yeah, I understand. It's almost like you're a rehabilitated boy.
Yes, and form of rehabilitating.
Really, currently rehabilitating.
I'm working on the
but
rehabilitation.
I think I like working with people similar to you, where they're like, I know I need to make a change, and you're not just saying, oh, it's just the girls in New York, or you're not blaming anyone else. You're saying like, I personally, you're on your healing journey. You need to figure it out, which I like. I feel like you're taking responsibility for that. I have worked with people like you. I mean, your situation is unique because people are meeting you with a preconceived notion of who you are. And then you have to spend probably like the first date or few kind of debunking that and be like, that was, you know, your perception of me is maybe different.
Yeah, but I also feel like it does relate to everybody, like just with the apps and the options and stuff like that. You know, mine is just magnified by like 10.
Right.
But, you know, I go on a lot of dates with people and it just doesn't seem like they're in that chapter of their life. But then because you know how I know that? Because I'll go on a date with someone else and they are in that chapter and I can see their whole attitude is different. You know what I mean? They're like ready to move into my house, ready to start cooking dinner, you know, and I'm just like, oh, okay. Like I see the two different mindsets and I think everybody kind of eventually gets there. Not everybody, but a lot of people eventually get there like as they reach like their late 20s and 30s and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, I think so too. Did something happen to you? Was there a catalyst? Like, was there a death in your life or something that happened where you're like, okay, now I'm going to move into this phase?
I think a big part of it was like my life used to be revolved around like going out and partying and drinking. Like it was the most fulfilling thing to me. Like when I was like doing my show in Vegas, like I could not wait to go there and just like go to the day parties and just like, you know, pick up girls and just go on dates and invite girls to my show and stuff. And that just like became less and less fulfilling to me as I got older, you know? So like once that was not filling a void anymore, I'm like, okay, what else can kind of fill this void? And I still haven't completely figured it out. I don't know if the relationship is going to like completely fill the void. I started doing like comedy, which now that's kind of like what I do at night. Like I'm not looking to like go out and drink and stuff. I went to the Hamptons this weekend. I lasted one day. Like it's like a shameful. Yeah. I like literally drove home. I'm like, these people were fucking partying. They were also on drugs, so it's easier. But I was like, I'm out of here. I can't do this, you know? Mm-hmm. So anyway, going more that route, it's like that's kind of, I feel like what happened to me.
Yeah, you know, so you're just in a transitional moment.
And yeah, there wasn't a death in the family, but it's funny you said that. I do think about like, again, like those hard times, like, you know, and having somebody around, you know, because like, let's just say like something as simple as like getting sick, like having the flu. Like my mom comes to the city to like spend a couple days with me to take care of me. And I'm just like, you know, I feel bad. I'm like, my mom can't do this. Like I need a wife.
I was having dinner with my best friend last night and she's like a little anti-therapy, or she was just saying all this stuff like people go to therapy for years and they don't change and then they get worse. And I was like, you have your husband. You've been with him for 15 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was like, that's why these people in some ways need therapy, because like they don't have a person that they've gone through life with. I was like, I think you just don't understand the role that a partner plays and how much they talk to you about like, hey, you know, you don't seem that happy at work right now. Do you need to make a change? And just like for a lot of people who don't have partners, there is that missing piece of like, who am I going through life with?
The Hinge thing, can you explain a little bit like what you do for Hinge?
Yeah. So I do a lot of research into dating to understand how are people dating, what's challenging about dating, how is dating changing. So for example, the non-monogamy thing. When I first started at Hinge, there wasn't an option for non-monogamy, and Hinge, the tagline is designed to be deleted. And then we started seeing a lot of people putting on their profiles ENM, ethical non-monogamy. So we're like, oh wow, there's actually like a need here. So then we did a bunch of research, and non-monogamy is like gone way up in the last few years. A large percentage of people are either interested in it or exploring it, especially in the queer community. So then we now have a feature where you can say, you know, if you're monogamous, non-monogamous, or figuring it out. So my job's really cool because I get to think about what's happening in dating, do panels with people, do research, and then kind of talk to people like you about what Hinge is finding.
Has non-monogamy like, is it good for society, do you think? Or is it dooming society?
I live in the Bay Area, so I feel like non-monogamy there is so big to the point.
I feel like the gays have it figured out.
Yeah.
I don't know if
the gay
the straights do.
I don't know about girls.
Gay men. Oh, girls don't like it, right?
I mean, I guess there's certain sectors, but I've never been with like a lesbian that has liked like we're very territorial of each other.
Yeah.
But then I'll cheat. I don't know.
That's kind of part of it. It's like in monogamous relationships, people often cheat anyway. Yeah. So it's not like that isn't happening. I would say, I think that marriage has been one way for a really long time. It's just been this idea of like one person for life until one of you dies. Mm-hmm. And for about 50% of people, that's not working, right? The divorce rate is still pretty high. So if somebody wants to think about another way of creating a relationship, I'm all for that type of disruption. I don't think everybody wants to be non-monogamous, and I don't think that monogamy is unrealistic. I just think having more options to choose from works for people. Like, why would the one-size-fits-all marriage work for everyone, especially when people are living so much longer than they ever were before?
Right. When they first invented marriage, were people probably living to like 30 years old or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, people were living much shorter lives, and marriage used to be this economic institution, right? It was like my father would negotiate with your father and give you this many camels and then we'd be married, or like our lands would be next to each other, so it made sense to combine them. It was never about love or belonging. And then dating is actually a pretty new thing because people finding their own partners, that only started happening around like 1890. So the fact that people are pretty bad at dating makes sense to me because most of human history, people didn't find their own partners.
I wish my mom just could choose the person for me.
Just trade a couple camels for you.
Yeah, but like, and then like find the guy, you know?
Doesn't that have a higher success rate?
Yeah.
Arranged marriages?
Yeah. So the research around that is that arranged marriages overtake love marriages at around the 4-year mark. And so that's like in the beginning of a relationship, you are almost on a drug. Like love comes up as a drug. When you do like a brain scan. So somebody who's like in love at first sight or really deep love in the beginning, it comes up on their brain.
I didn't have love at first sight.
It comes up on their brain as if they were doing like cocaine or something. Yeah. So it's a really strong feeling, but then that fades. Whereas
it happens to me every week.
I know.
Yeah, there you go. There's the Hamptons. But when you're in an arranged marriage, you're like, I'm not going to be leaving this, so I'm going to make it work. So there is a little bit of awkwardness like in that data because maybe it's like, oh, if there was more of a culture of getting divorced, then maybe those people would. But yes, I think I've had a lot of people, especially around your age, be like, I just want somebody to choose for me. And I think that's so fascinating because you're saying that you think somebody else would actually make a better decision than you.
For sure. Like, I don't trust my gut.
That's what the show Married at First Sight is premised on. You know, it's like a panel of experts that found somebody for you. And they actually stay together, a lot of them. They stay together more than people. Have you ever seen the show?
No, I've heard of it, but I didn't know the premise. Were you going to say like more than The Bachelor or something?
More, yeah, I was going to say more than like The Perfect Match or like some shit like that, you know?
I'm surprised nobody's made that show.
Which one?
Like My Mom Should Choose My Person.
Oh my God, that'd be so funny. I guess
there was like parental control. Do you remember that one?
I
it was like an old
remember
MTV
the name.
one.
Yeah, that would be dope. But I feel like a lot of people don't like their parents anymore, right? I don't know.
Like family unit.
I'm very close with my mom.
Yeah, so your mom knows you inside and out.
She knows me inside and out, but I feel like a lot of my friends, like their moms don't know them well enough.
What do you think? Just like if somebody was like, okay, your mom's going to choose someone.
Hell no.
Really?
Well, let's explore.
Does she hang out with black girls?
That's true.
Is it because she doesn't know the person or she doesn't know you?
My mom does know me. She actually knows me pretty well. It's funny. One time we were on the Wendy Williams show and we played one of those like dating game type things, like, but it was with my mom, but not for us to date, like where you kind of guess what I'm
like
thinking.
The Newlyweds game.
Yeah. And like she got everyone right. You know, like what's the first thing Vinny looks at? And it was like big booty, you know? So she does know me. But I have been told I'm very picky.
Yeah.
It's a very specific type of thing. So I would not trust my mom to just answer the question, you know? Yeah, I'm very picky.
Okay, so I like to ask my coaching clients this, just like to put it out there. It's like, and you actually have been on a dating show, but I usually say it to them like this. I'm like, okay, if 6 months from now you needed to find your wife, and
I have a couple lined up.
Okay, and you know, however amount of money is meaningful to you, let's say $10 million if you find your wife in 6 months and you stay married for a while, like what are all the things that you would do to make that happen?
Wait, I don't understand the question.
It's basically like if you went into turbo mode. Okay. And I have 6 months to make this my priority. Like I'm not going to care about the podcast. I'm not focused on YouTube.
6 months to live.
And it's just like, what are the things that you would do to actually make it happen?
To like find someone to marry?
$10 million.
That's a good question. I do go on dates now, so I don't know. I guess that question does get to the root of it all, is where like you would stop having such high standards and kind of just being like, all right, like I know this person makes me happy. Stop fucking around and looking for the next best thing, you know? Because I think I've had a couple of those. I mean, right now I am talking to someone. I'm talking to someone, you know, beginning stages where, again, I don't know if she's going to be the person I would marry, but like, I guess if I had 6 months to live, I'd be like, yeah, she will. What'd you say?
You would choose her?
I mean, I don't know. It's still too early on, but you know, I have like girls that are friends with benefits.
Yeah.
maybe one of those. I don't know.
But what
am I supposed to
about
say?
her, the girl you're talking to, makes her like?
Oh, like what do I like about it?
Yeah.
Logan, do you want to know?
Oh, definitely. I want you to go as into your dating life as you're comfortable with.
Well, as I got older, this is a judgment-free zone, right? So like people she's like, yeah, I'll judge you though. People used to make fun of me for being like a mama's boy and everything. And I used to tell them like, well, they used to say like, you want a girl that's just like your mom, you know? And as I got older, I was like, that's not, I mean, I was like, no, that's, when they used to say you want a girl like your mom, I used to say that's not true because you should see the girls I'm dating. They're nothing like my mom, you know? They're like sexy, wild, you know, kind of like probably like the OnlyFans type of girls, you know?
So your mom's nothing like that.
My mom's not on OnlyFans, you know? She probably is cooking, you know, in the kitchen. She's like, subscribe to Make Bake Ziti. But as I got older though, and was looking for this like life partner and stuff, when I do meet someone that has like those qualities of my mom, like I start to like love it.
Yeah.
It's just like a feeling of being like cared for and nurtured. It could be as simple as like making my water bottle for me, making the bed in the morning, keeping like the house clean, not for me, but just because they love keeping like a clean environment. Mm-hmm. That shit is rare nowadays with the girls I go on dates with.
Yeah, yeah.
So when someone like usually has those qualities and there's the physical connection there with sex, that's usually when I'm like, all right, hold on a second. Like, you know,
does she have those qualities?
Pursuing. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So she's caring and you're physically attracted to her.
Yeah, basically.
I mean, you're really in a transitional moment where you've lived your life one way for a long time. And then there's the type of women that you meet in those environments. And then now you're making a change and you want something different, but you probably just have the habit of looking for that type of person. So it's like, I really imagine to get to the next stage, you have to look for a different type of person. It sounds like the first thing you've identified is somebody who makes a home that you want to be in, where you feel comfortable, you feel taken care of. What are other things that you're looking for?
Well, I don't know. I feel like there's just like I'm a quiet, introverted guy. So like when I have somebody around that I really like fuck with, the silence is like very comfortable. And I feel like right away, I like physical touch too.
Yeah.
So I feel like right away I can like cozy up to them. We don't really have to talk. We could just, and it's just like easy. Like my anxiety, my fight or flight just doesn't get triggered around that person. I can't really explain it because sometimes it just gets triggered and no one's doing anything wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like maybe the person's a little needy or you perceive them to be needy and then you have to push back and you're like, they're kind of coming on too strong. So then I want to pull away. Do you have that version?
Well, no, I think it's like sometimes I feel like I need to perform in front of the person. Like they're not saying anything, but I just internally do that. And then some people I feel like I don't need to perform in front of the person because maybe they just like really like me.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Get with people that like me. You know what I mean?
I heard this quote from Jerry Seinfeld where he was talking about meeting his wife and he just said it felt like being at home.
Yes.
And it felt like when she was in his house, it just made sense. Like, of course you should be here. Like, I feel like you're really describing a lot of that where like you feel comfortable with them. You're not the outside of the house partier or even the outside of the house performer. You're just like your authentic self.
Yes. So I have found that a couple times, right? But a couple times I've found that with people, I don't know like a nice way of saying this, but like I'm not sure I want to like reproduce with. So that's another new layer that has been added on to this.
Because of how they look or what they would be like as a mom?
Not because of how they look. I mean, they look good. But
to be clear,
yeah, they look good. They look good to me. I'm definitely people. Not everyone has my type, right, Sienna?
You don't even have your type.
We don't have the same type.
No, not at all.
So, no, I don't know. I'm not saying that like they wouldn't be, but just, I don't know, certain behaviors, like certain things, I don't know. I just don't know if like I feel like this decision now is like going to be the last person I ever date. And I don't know if I should, like, you can help me with that, like putting that much pressure on it, but I'm afraid to get into relationships because I feel like if I don't feel like I'm going to marry this person, they're going to have my kids within like a couple dates, I just kind of like run away.
That was like one of your questions on your
Yeah, but I actually feel like that's the right state for you right now. Like I understand how you're framing it, which is like, am I being too judgmental too quickly? But I honestly feel like that's an okay place for you to be in, which is essentially like you meet a girl and something in your head might go, this is the type of girl that I would have had a situation with in the past, situationship or friends with benefits situation, but now I'm looking for my wife. So I could go down that path, but I know it doesn't lead to marriage. So I'm going to end it so that I can then go meet the girl who is going to end in marriage.
Yes. So
I think that's a good approach.
Yeah, because I don't want to end up getting into that spot 6 months in. But at the same time, that kind of keeps me living in a loop, I feel.
Right. So I think what changes it if you get really clear with yourself, using that word intentional dating, about why are you ending things with people and is it for real reasons? So like off the top of your head, like what are some reasons that you've broken up with people in the past that might be a little superficial or silly?
But not big enough.
In the past, I mean, like I haven't been in many relationships. That's another thing about me that people are a little shocked by, but I actually feel like I'm on the right side of history with that because of course it could be like fuck boys don't get into relationships, but I feel like I've always just been honest with it, with myself. I've been like, what am I doing? I don't really want to be in a relationship right now. You know, I feel like a relationship should be like a precursor to getting married, you know? So that's why like I never really was in them. Like if I actually did fall into one, it was very serious to me. So once I realized that, I just completely stopped being in relationships. I'm like, I'm going to do it when I'm ready. Now I feel like I'm in that point again. But what was the question? Why did I get out of them or something? They were just like, they were toxic. Like, you know, like they were like one girl slashed my tires.
Okay, so it sounds like I'm not even going there. That sounds like the first thing for you is to get really clear on what you're looking for. And like that way, when you meet someone who has it, you can recognize it.
Yes.
So there's this tool that one of my friends who's a matchmaker came up with called a penthouse person and a basement person. So it's like a penthouse person is somebody who, when you're with them, you feel, you know, you go to the top of the apartment building. It's like you feel energized, you feel happy, you walk away with a little pep in your step. They bring out your best side of you. And this doesn't have to be a romantic person. It's often like a sibling or a best friend. So who in your life is your penthouse person?
What do you mean? Like a girl?
Yeah,
or
like no, anyone. Like it could be
oh man, that's a good
Pauly
question.
D.
Yeah. I mean, Pauly D is cool. I do feel inspired and energized and stuff around him. I don't know. I'm kind of like a loner. I kind of just like am by myself all day.
Where you're like,
I'm like the leader of my family. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Is there anyone where who are you your most authentic self with? Where you don't have to perform. Is it your mom? Yeah.
No, my mom I perform a little bit because I can't make, you know, dick jokes in front of my mom.
You're
you know what I
playing
mean?
the role of son. I get it.
Yeah. I mean, I have like just like cousins and stuff, but still, I don't know. That's a good question.
Okay, so
maybe I have no answer.
That's okay. So
Sienna.
The idea, maybe it's
I'm pretty chill in front of Sienna. Yeah.
So it's like when you go out with somebody, I want them to make you feel the way that Sienna feels, where you're like, I feel really at home. I feel comfortable. I'm not performing.
I know exactly what that is.
Right. Versus looking for like, is this the hottest person I've ever dated? Is this the best sex that I've ever had? Like there's a lot of other things.
Well, I want that, but with the hottest person that I could also have sex with.
Sienna with a fat ass.
yeah, exactly.
Right. I hope that happens. But I think the reason why I like this exercise is because it helps people focus on what matters and what doesn't. So often like the women that I coach will be like, okay, he has to be this tall. He has to have this resume, have gone to this school, this job, make this much money. Very focused on like somebody's resume qualities. And then when they meet these guys that are assholes, they just have the resume. And I'm like, but this person doesn't treat you well. And the shift I try to get them to make is how does that person make you feel? What side of you do they bring out? And so I think
they're good on paper.
Yes, good on paper.
But the vibes
are off. So for you, it's like, can you date vibes forward? Where you're like, this girl's really cute. She has a lot of the physical traits I want. But then I'm not like my favorite Vinny in front of her. And then that's, you know how to move it on versus breaking up with somebody for something more superficial.
So where do you usually tell people sex and the physical comes into play? With finding a long-term partner. A long-term partner.
Okay, so I have this chapter in my book about what matters more and less than people think for long-term relationships. And it's like for a long time, people date for the prom date. Like who's the person you want to take to prom? Like the hottest person, the person you want to kiss at the end of the night, maybe sleep with, who's going to look good on the dance floor. And then you have to make an intentional choice to start shifting towards the life partner. That's kind of where you are. And so
that's the spark thing?
Yeah, that's another one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we could get into that. So basically, some of the things that matter less than people think they do, and this is from the research on relationships, are having the same personality. You know, you can have opposites attract. You don't have to be the same. Like maybe you like a more extroverted girl. Things like money and looks, like obviously those are nice and they can make life easier, but you get used to them over time. So it's like even the hottest person has somebody who's like sick of sleeping with them, right? Because you literally adapt to people who are around you. And so I wouldn't optimize for those things. And even same with similar hobbies, you can have your own hobbies. And then the things that matter more than people think are things like, what side of me do they bring out? Can we fight well together? Can we make hard decisions together? Really understanding what your dynamic is. You know, are they kind? Are they loyal? Are they emotionally stable? And so I think far too often people look at those prom date qualities, the superficial stuff, and they don't make that jump to the stuff that really matters long term.
So is sex part of the prom date qualities, you think?
I think that, of course, you should be physically attracted to the person, but I feel like there's so many elements caught up in sex, whether it's about power or novelty, that I feel like if you make that the number one thing you're optimizing for, you're most likely then missing out on some other pieces.
Totally.
I feel like yours is novelty.
Novelty? What do you
Yeah,
mean?
like it being like a fresh thing because you've always had so many options.
Right. But I mean, I definitely never, at this point, like, I never just, another thing about me is like from having all the options in this unique life, I don't really get excited about too many things.
Yeah.
So like the average guy might get really excited about like a bunch of girls like wanting to have a threesome with him. You know what I mean? That's like a Tuesday for me.
Yeah.
So, so no,
By the way, it is Tuesday.
Yeah.
yeah, I have one lined up. No, but like I really don't get like too fazed by that type of shit, you know?
Yeah.
But I never really like chase the sex or the physical the most over like a good or a good vibe at this point in my life.
Yeah.
There are plenty of girls that I know that'll probably give me the best sex ever, but I know that I'm not going to be with them, so I'm not going to date them.
So you don't feel like you're currently being distracted by sex?
I am in a way. I want it to be a pretty big element of the life partner, of the companion. You know what I mean? And maybe, maybe, I don't know. Do you have to like, I know you're not going to say yes, but like, does the answer have to be like, yeah, like you have to completely give that part up of your life because biologically we are humans on this planet that, are meant to reproduce, continue the human race, and then it stops being about yourself at a certain age because we get old and die. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, all right, I don't know, maybe like you have to just give it up and just find the right life partner to raise good human beings with and then not have that sexual element to it,
I definitely don't think
I'm being a little facetious.
I know, but I definitely don't think you have to make that compromise because there's so many ways when couples want to that they can keep that sexual attraction alive. I think
NonMonogamy.
A lot of people don't
do
it, but I think if it's a priority to you, which it clearly is, you can work on it. And you can even have that conversation with a partner where you're like, hey, I'm a sexual being. I want to maintain a active sex life for a long time. Like, are you on board with that? And it might have to do with like their commitment to fitness or just being a sexual person who's open to exploration. I think that can just be something that you look for.
Right.
Somebody where like their sexuality is a prized part of their identity. I think if you go into this thinking, okay, all those fun years are over, I have to settle for this, that's not going to feel good and it'll take longer. I think if you say, I can find someone who has that priority, then that can just be built into this stage now and it won't feel like a huge compromise.
Right. But that's where it starts getting really nitpicky.
I don't think that, you haven't said anything that's that nitpicky yet, so I'm still trying to understand, like, is it just
show your true self?
Is it that you...
What do you mean I am? I'm fucking being mad real. She just has to have a fat ass though.
There we go.
I like big booties.
Have you spent 20 years kind of dating for fun and now you just started dating seriously?
Me?
If so, then like you're just kind of at the beginning of this.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, asshole.
Okay, now you tell me the truth. What do you think Vinny's...
Oh God, I'm going to cut this out.
What is he doing wrong?
Okay. No.
Whoa, the whole framework of the question, you just fucking did me dirty because a second ago you said I was at the beginning of this. So how am I even doing anything wrong? There's been no proven studies.
I'm being a bad scientist.
I think
she's just going
like a perfect
she
example.
Just, like, loves to
perfect example is like Vinny will be like, this girl's like an 8.5, but because she's bisexual, that adds like another half point. Like he's very like,
like some
you remember
scientific.
He's very like, he overthinks these.
There was a girl
that's a really good example for me to know.
Yeah.
Well, let me know. It could be wrong or right, but there was somebody that like, if they don't check boxes in like certain areas, like they kind of like make up for it in like other areas.
He like does math with like women.
I have had
scientists.
I've had a lot of clients like that, and they really don't find someone until they stop doing that. Because you really are the ultimate maximizer. It's like somebody who comes in and they're like, okay, I have a spreadsheet. I want the looks of this girl with the family of this girl with the ambition of this girl. And then they're like, find me somebody who has all those traits. And I'm like, you're asking the wrong question. Like you need to kind of start over and say like, okay, when I was with this girl, what side of me did she bring out? I was actually really anxious all the time because she was hot and cold and I didn't know how she felt. When I was with this person, I had to pretend I was this for her friends, whatever it is. And so I feel like I'm sort of repeating myself about the what side of you somebody brings out, but that's who you're going to be in a relationship. It's like who I am with my husband at dinner. Like that's my life. And I just feel like you want to marry someone where you like the person you are around them. And that does not have anything to do with 8.5, 9.6. That's almost like a way of avoiding real intimacy.
Yeah.
What she's referring to is like something where if we backtrack to like that sexual kind of thing, where it was somebody that I feel like, I could be honest about sex and kind of feel like they're on the same vibe as me. Like, for example, like I could be first date meeting someone and then she could be like, oh my God, like I love having threesomes, So like now when a girl says that, first of all, usually it's a little bit of a red flag to me because I'm like, I don't usually hear it a lot. My therapist tells me it's a red flag about having threesomes in relationships and stuff like that. But for me, like just some kind of like excitement, sexual kind of thing, I'm like, all right, at least I can have this kind of like the conversation we were talking about before, like in the long run, like who could be, I could be like a sexual being with or something like that. So she might have that and then like lack other qualities that I tend to look for. So that's what I meant by, I don't know if I was actually ever like measuring numbers. Like I'm not sitting there with like a notepad, you know what I mean? But it's just like, she might have this that excites me. Let's see, even if she doesn't have XYZ, let's see if like, it could build someone good.
So the way that I think about this, like kind of in a structured way, is like, what are your must-haves or your deal breakers? So it seems like one of them is pretty sexual. Like you want someone who probably knows their body, is open to talking about like what they like and don't like, seems to have a commitment to connecting in that realm. And like, I don't think there's anything embarrassing or wrong or like immature about that. It's like, that's important to you and you want that to be in your long-term relationship. So that is a deal breaker for you. They have to have that. It sounds like another one is qualities like your mom, where they're very caring. They want to take care of you. They keep a nice home. What are other ones? Because I think if we get clear on what you want, we can also talk about what you're willing to compromise on. And then I think as you meet people, it'll be faster for you to say like, yes, this is aligned, or no, it's not.
What are other ones? Like what are examples of other ones?
Like another one would be, like for me, sense of humor is like the most important thing.
Yeah.
It's like, I really want to laugh. I want our text messages to be funny. Like I really care about that. Another one for me was intelligence. It's like, I want you to be smarter than me. And I can ask you like what a word means when I'm reading a magazine or something like that.
I know, but I feel like the more I of course it's all of those things, but the more I say of those things, the more out of reach it gets.
But it's not supposed, but maybe you're like, they don't have to be like so smart. They can just be this. Or maybe you're like, I'm the funny one. They don't have to be funny. Like, I'm not saying what are good and bad traits. I'm saying like, what matters to you? And if the answer is you don't know yet, then that's just something to explore.
But all those things matter to me.
Like, can I have like, you remember like the girl that you really liked and then you went on a date with her? Were there other things?
What?
The girl, I don't want to say where she was from.
Oh.
Like, were there other things that were indicators on that date? Because he had this girl that he liked for a long time.
I got sick on that date. No, she was great.
But are you still talking to her?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh,
but there was no so like it's not like the easiest thing to like communicate with her, which is another question too. A lot of times, like in the beginning of like the dates and stuff, like some people it's easy to like flow back and forth with. And I'm sure a lot of people deal with this on dating apps too, especially Raya. It's like one word, we say another word to each other a week later. How much like of that grace period should be there of like the non-communication, nonchalant thing?
We actually did so much research on this at Hinge, and we have a word that I like called DBL, which is your digital body language. So just like I'm looking at your body language right now, like you're leaning a little forward, you look engaged. What is digital body language, and how are people communicating? And so a couple stats from Hinge. So one is that if you respond to somebody within the first 24 hours of them messaging you, you're 72% more likely to actually go on a date. Because like you're actually in the conversation, getting to know each other, and then you go to the date versus like never responding.
Yeah.
Another big thing that I see and that we've seen in the Hinge research is that sometimes people are a really good match in person, but they have different texting styles. So do you have this a lot?
Yeah. I'm a bad texter.
I hate
Are
that.
you the bad texter?
No.
They say it.
Yeah.
It honestly comes up a lot. It's like, I think when we did the research, it's like in modern dating, the texting is a big part of the early relationship. It's like most of how you're talking, then there's a date. A lot of how you're talking, then there's a date. So if you think that somebody's not interested or that they're too pick me, then you might be like kind of pushed away. So it's like, I actually think it's good when people who meet can be like, hey, I'm really present when I'm not, I'm usually not on my phone. So if I don't text you back, it doesn't mean anything. It just means this. So just having more conversations about what kind of texter you are.
I like never believe them when they say they're bad. Because I'm a bad texter to everyone besides the person I'm like interested in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do agree with that point. And that kind of came up where even when I was doing this like Gen Z panel and there was like two people I was talking to where I was like, are you actually bad texters or is that just an excuse?
Yeah.
And some of them said I'm a bad texter to everyone. I don't know. I think it's a little,
because it's like if your favorite celebrity texts you randomly, like, are you gonna like not respond? You'll be like, oh my God, I forgot that Zach just, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. It's
I don't know.
What if they said, this is too real, but what if they said, I'm a good texter once somebody is important to me, but somebody who I'm just early dating with, you haven't like made it to the top 5 yet.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I was saying like, what's like the period of time? Because I've been in that where I've let that go for like a month. Yeah. And then I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like I just, there's no.
Did you tell them though? Like the communication is bad?
Yeah. I said, well, I told them earlier and they were like, I'll work on it. And then after like it never changed and then started even turning into like borderline disrespect of like, hey, we have plans Friday. And then you don't hear from the person until Friday, right before the date. You know what I mean? Like, that's when I'm just like, all right, like clearly this isn't working.
I agree with you. I think like for myself, like I text my husband way more than he texts me. So like when he kind of stops working, he has like a whole bunch of texts from me. Some he responds to, some he doesn't. But like he responds to me at least enough for it to feel fine for me.
And you know he's working, you know what the other person's doing.
Trust.
Yeah, and it's like, but if he texted a lot less than that, it would like his minimum amount of his minimum and what I need like would not match up. It's like I need a minimum amount of communication. Yeah. So for you, like this girl just wasn't willing to give you that. And so then you have to call it. So it's like texting is kind of part of modern relationships, and somebody either needs to be a better texter or at least put effort into meeting your needs.
But that's what I was talking about before with the whole being in the mindset of like actually wanting to work, to be in a relationship. Like that texting might be work for that person, but I feel like you have to put in the work.
I agree.
If you want that. And like that person just doesn't seem, and then you get to know them for a lot of different reasons. You're like, okay, I don't think this person's ready to settle down. Like they're traveling a lot. They're going to live in different places or whatever. As opposed to somebody that like, I don't know, like they're like 33 years old, seem to be wanting to like find a husband for real. And it's like, they become really easy to talk to.
Right. Text, and do you like that, or do you actually feel turned off by it? Because sometimes when people are making the shift you are from like dating for fun to dating for marriage, there's still part of their brain that's adjusting to it. So when somebody is too clearly interested, they actually prefer somebody with the chase.
I never, like if I'm actually at that point of talking to somebody, it's because like I'm interested in them. They're not like, they're not fans or anything to where I'm like, oh, this is a turnoff, so I like the fact. A lot of people have this notion that I that I want something like extremely hard to get and that I like the chase and everything, but that's not true. I like when someone makes me feel secure and like I could just talk to them if I want to talk to them. Yeah.
I like what you said before about Vinny doing some of the math, even though it's more of a metaphor. Is there anything else where you're like, I feel like you'd have an easier time if you made this shift?
I think I feel like the social media, I feel like he's always seeing these girls. I feel like that's probably
I'd like to clarify this.
Not great for his brain.
Totally.
In this new journey of finding a wife, you know, because he's like, oh, this girl's even hotter, and then this girl's even hotter.
I think that's super insightful. Let's hear the
rebuttal. May I respond?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I do think that all the options on social media are not good for our brains and like the comparison and stuff like that. As a single guy, you know, especially when Instagram first came out, before there was a For You page or anything like that, I used to just hit follow, because I was in that chapter of my life. And that's just how my algorithm, what I acquired. As I got older, I started to realize like how that looked and how that like seemed. I literally went in and I unfollowed like 2,000 girls that weren't, I only kept the ones, I tried to keep the ones that were following me back at least. Because I was like, this is crazy. But there still are, you know, I don't know, but there's everything. There's guys, girls.
There's a lot of girls.
Dogs, you know, whatever. But yeah, that's what girls has always been a big part of my life. You know what I mean? Like I don't do drugs. I just used to drink and be with girls. Yeah. That's it, you know? And that's just kind of like your following is almost like a reflection of kind of like who you are.
Yeah.
And, right. So
I judge social media so much.
Right. So I have, if I could, I would love to just have like following 200 people right now. They're like the closest people to me and like kind of just peek at them from my For You page and stuff. But I don't really have that luxury because I have like a lot of followers.
But you don't have to follow.
You don't have to follow all those. You could follow 200 people.
I can't. I've acquired thousands of followers over 10 years and I can't unfollow everybody. I'd have to like, I'd have to like pay an intern to like go spend.
I actually think that's a reasonable idea.
I do.
It might be. I always say I want to do that when I sort of meet somebody that I'm talking to.
Even optically, like a girl will like that more than.
No, I know, but like I just haven't hired the intern.
I'll do it
to go do it. Have fun. But I don't want to. I also don't want to unfollow everybody. So I'd have to sit there with the person and be like, no, I actually know this person. This person's a friend. Like that's fucking like annoying.
It sounds small, but I really think it's a good idea because it's basically your environment. Like your environment is what you see on Instagram when you open it.
But that's not. But that's not what's keeping me, like, it's not a problem. Like, she thinks it's a problem.
It's definitely not helpful.
Sienna, you're bisexual. So when we first started hanging out with each other, we would send each other hot girls all day. This wasn't me being like, this girl's hot, this girl's hot. This is just like browsing Instagram with like, I would send to like my guy friend. Like, that's kind of what it was. So don't get this idea that like, I'm like, this girl's hotter, this girl's hotter, this girl's hotter, you know?
Okay, you know, sometimes like when you have a new identity, you have to show yourself that you have something different. Like if you were training, I don't know if you've done any acting and I haven't done any acting, but like if you were doing like method acting and you're like, I'm getting into the mind of this person. I sort of feel like you need to get into the mind of new Vinny. And one of the things that might reflect that is having a more curated Instagram where it's more about like who you want to be and who you are now. And what I'm hearing is that your Instagram is like the old you. And even though you think like, oh, it's not really affecting me, it's like just that passive scrolling and just that visual, like men are very visual creatures. Like if Sienna thinks it's having an impact on you, like it might be.
It might be. I'm very self-aware. So I definitely think that it's not the healthiest thing in the world. I'm not like completely defending it. But because I'm self-aware, I feel like if I do, I've yet to have a problem to where like I meet someone good and like I go on my Instagram and I'm like, oh no, like I want that person. You know what I mean? Just if it does get to that point, then, you know, it'll be an issue. Because another issue is like my main dating app is Instagram.
Yeah.
So I meet a lot of girls on Instagram. We like each other's pictures. We follow. That's like the only extent of like following the new Vinny has been doing.
Yeah.
It's been like, and I've, this last girl that I'm talking to, like a couple of my last serious situationships have been formed from that. So I agree both sides. I think that, again, magic wand, if I could just snap my fingers, it would be a more curated group of people. But at the same time, I don't want to stop like pursuing women on Instagram because that's how I meet them, you know?
Yeah, new Vinny could then follow that new girl and follow each other back and do all of that. It's just kind of like the baggage of all these old follows, or even just muting people as they come up.
I deleted like 2,000 of them.
There's still 3,700.
It's not all girls though. It's not all girls. But no, I do agree. I mean, but again, I think that I could be a good sacrificial guinea pig for everybody because, you know, I think everyone deals with that.
So I feel like even at this point in the conversation, I'm like, okay, so what is the main thing going on? It's like you have lots of options. So at least, you know, that's positive and negative, but at least there's many people who you want to be with and who want to be with you. So that's not the main thing. Then it doesn't seem like you're being overly nitpicky about things. It doesn't seem like it's the Instagram thing. Like, what do you think is the biggest challenge right now?
Again, it's still kind of like early and brand new. So like, I don't really know. I haven't like recognized, because I have like a scientific mind too. So I haven't recognized like patterns that I'm doing in this new intentional thing. I will say that I think, and this leads me to another question about long distance, right? Especially with apps. So I feel like I meet a different type of person in a big city like Manhattan or something than I do in like a suburb. I feel like the suburb gals are like a little more down to earth and kind of willing to be that good vibe, silly, easygoing type of thing. And then in the city, I do go for looks. But even if I wasn't going for looks, I still feel like they're just on like another wavelength of traveling, of their career, of stuff like that. So I might be like, oh my God, this person's like so beautiful and intriguing, but we don't have that like suburb type of vibe. So, you know, that's been a challenge for me of like finding the soulmate in New York City. And then you start to go venture outside of it, especially through dating apps. Raya is matching you with people in, you know, on Mars. So it's like, oh, I have a great vibe with this person, but they don't live around me necessarily. And then I have another follow-up question, but do you have anything to say to that?
That's interesting. I feel like what you're calling like suburban versus urban, another way to look at it would just be like, is this a person who's willing to prioritize me right now or not? And it sounds like you've been dating a bunch of girls where it's like, you're one of the many things they enjoy doing. Like they also like traveling. They also care about their career. And like, I think the person that you wind up with will probably have a combination of that, but maybe we can just restate it from you like the suburban vibe to you now want to make dating a priority. You want someone who's also making dating a priority.
Yes.
And you're finding that more with girls outside the city.
And I think that that's what I've evolved into. Like, again, past the sex, past the looks is just that feeling like you're like a priority. And that's where I think that like, you start to not go into that fight or flight and be anxious around the person because you feel like a priority. You feel like safe around them. You know what I mean?
Do you know about attachment theory? Have you heard about that?
No.
Sienna, have you heard about? I feel like it's big on TikTok.
Like anxious attachment, avoidant attachment.
So this is like one of the top things that I think helps people really get to the next stage of dating is this idea of we all have different attachment styles. And so some people are anxiously attached. And what happens is that when they get close to somebody, their brain kind of goes into overdrive and is like, they're going to abandon me. They're going to pull away.
That's me.
So they're constantly trying to get closer to you because they're worried that you're going to abandon them.
I've saw that before.
Then there's an avoidant attachment where it's like, when I get close to somebody, they smother me. So before they get close to me, I'm going to push them away. I'm going to say, your Uber's here, you know, push, like I want independence. And then there's people who are securely attached and there are people who are both comfortable with intimacy and independence. So they have a good combination of I want to be close to you and I'm comfortable with my alone time. And so a lot of times people who are secure get into relationships. So then the people left dating are the anxious and the avoidant ones. And they date each other and they reinforce each other's worst habits. It's like, I think love is you abandoning me. I think love is you smothering me. We're dating each other and we're living that out. And it's not until you find someone who's securely attached or you find someone who's, or you become more secure yourselves that you get over it.
So wait, what are the two ideal?
The ideal one is secure.
Okay.
Like both are secure.
You're both secure.
So basically a relationship where at least one of the people is secure is much better. Because when anxious and avoidant date each other, they reinforce bad habits and they sort of make each other miserable.
Yeah.
So working on becoming more secure yourself or looking for somebody who's secure is a great way to kind of get out of that anxious avoidant loop and find someone. And so for you, I feel like you've had a lot of the experiences of, it almost sounds like maybe you're more of the anxious type. Which type do you think you are?
Well, I don't know if I'm anxious in terms of being attached to the person or anything. I have just OCD and anxiety
like,
about everything in my life. You know what I mean?
Are you more likely to be like, this person's getting close, I want to push them away? Or because you were talking about texting kind of a way where like you want to be more in touch than the other person.
I just want to feel like a little bit secure. Like I feel like sometimes they feel too secure to where they're like, they're like, yeah, I'll talk to you when I talk to you type of thing.
Oh, yeah. That's kind of the taken for granted. Yeah.
I do feel this was going to tie into my distance question. Sure. I can kind of do it, but I do feel like the whole pushing people away, especially like if you're long distance and I start to get scared about like the next move, which would have to be the person moving to me and making them uproot their whole life to be with me. So then I'll start to push away a little bit and let's be like, let's slow down here because, you know, I don't want to be in this part where you're so addicted or attached now because we've been talking every day on the phone. We've had a couple good trips together, but it's like, I don't know if I'm ready for you to like move in yet. So I'll kind of like,
okay, this might seem like easier said than done advice, but I really do believe it, which is I feel like the next stage of New Vinny is just being more honest with people about what's going on in your head. And so what that might sound like is saying to somebody like, I really like you. You live in LA. For these reasons, I can't move from New York. So I would be interested in you coming to New York and spending more time here. But it freaks me out a little bit that you're uprooting your life and that if this doesn't work out, I will have done something wrong. So I do want you to spend more time here, but like, that's what's going on for me. And then they can say, I'm a grown-ass woman. I'm moving there because I want to explore it too. It won't be your fault if we break up. Then you're kind of operating on that like level.
But you don't like that either.
No, I hear what you're saying. It sounds great, but then I'm already just getting anxious about the breakup. Because once it's happening, it's like, I know you're a big girl, but as the man, I feel like I have to be.
That's true, but you're not responsible for somebody's feelings. You're just responsible for having integrity and saying like, this is what's going on.
Yeah. So, I'm not like cold. Like I know guys that are like really cold-hearted like that. Like,
I don't think that's cold-hearted at all. Like, how did it sound to you?
Like, if
no, I'm saying like I know guys that like literally will just like dead someone, ghost someone, never talk to them again.
To them?
Just in general, like you know what I mean. Just I'm like over here like writing like paragraphs and theses
Which I like.
About
we don't
like
want you to be cold-hearted.
Yeah, those guys get murdered.
But she was saying about being upfront about your questions and stuff, your intentions about distance and everything.
Yeah, I don't know, Sienna. Like, if you got a message like that, or like a girl said that to you, what would you think?
If she was like, I'll move, but I'm gonna like, I'll be fine.
Or just like, do you feel like you're able to operate in that language where you're like, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm scared about, and then you can have a conversation that's like, this is what's going on, versus I feel like what a lot of people do is just they keep their fears in their head, and then it's actually a lot of like miscommunication.
Yeah, I love just like open, clear. You know, with my boyfriend, he was literally like, I want to be married by this age. This is what I want. I've dated this kind of girl. I don't like it. I like that you're like this. But like, I just like the very like clear. But some people hate that because they just like the love part of dating. But I think that you're very logical.
I think she's saying
I'm
like.
not answering the question.
What'd you say?
I'm not answering the question.
No, I was saying I think she's saying like if a guy was like, if you had a long distance relationship and the guy was like, I'm really scared about you coming here. You know, I'm just letting you know this might not work out or whatever. And then you uproot your whole life. You start getting mail at the guy's house and all this stuff.
And it doesn't work.
And then it doesn't work. Would you just be like, all right, you told me up front and I'm a big girl, you know?
I have daddy issues. It would affect me deeply.
Okay. I see what you're saying, but it's like love is messy. Love has rejection. Like if we were all just trying to do something really clean, like maybe we would have married our high school sweetheart. It's like we're grown-ups and we're like talking to complicated people and there is messiness, but it's worth it. But I really like the point you made about how clear your boyfriend is. Like, I want to be married by this age. I've dated this type of girl. This has worked out. This hasn't. Yeah. And then you know where you stand. And I almost feel like that's the next stage for you, is just to be a little bit clearer with people from the beginning. Like, when I don't hear when you don't text me and I don't hear from you, it makes me think you're not interested. And then the girl can say like, oh no, I actually am, and show up. Just like a little bit more language around what's going on.
Well, so in 2024 with dating apps, what are your thoughts on the distance stuff? I don't really know how
the distance
Hinge
stuff?
works, but
Yeah, so
like didn't
Hinge-
back in the day, like everyone always says, like, you know, somebody in a small town, the only options around
Yeah.
you were, you know, the guy around the block or worked at the gas station, whatever. Now you just go on your phone and, you know, it's like, wow, there's an amazing, successful guy that lives in Miami or something like that. He's going to fly me out. Is that like a real way to like form a relationship? Or
Yeah, I think we were talking about the book Modern Romance or the Aziz Ansari book. Or anyway, maybe I was talking to your producer about it. But basically they talk about how you used to marry like Bob or Belinda down the block and now you have a lot more options. And I think that there's clear positives and negatives. So the positives are like for people in the queer community, for people who are over 55, for different groups where it's harder to find someone, it's really great to say like who's in my area or even my extended area who's single. And for other people, I do think it makes it harder to have more choices. But for example, Hinge is testing this thing. It's not like readily available for everyone yet, called Your Turn Limits, which is basically like once you're in conversation with 8 people, you can't send a like to another person until you either respond to one of those people or close it out. And it's basically saying like, our brains have had a lot of options and we have too big of rosters. How can you actually cut the roster and be talking to fewer people at the same time? And so I think in terms of the long distance question, like long distance is hard. My general advice is I think the relationships can sort of only work when you have a time when you are going to live in the same city or else I think it's challenging, but I don't have a ton of research on that. It's just generally, I think they're challenging. But in terms of too many options, it's like, know that too many options is probably making it hard for you. And even if you don't have the Hinge Your Term Limits yet, could you just have your own practice of, I only talk to 8 or fewer people at a time. And then I'd say about each girl, yes or no, as opposed to like keeping a lot of balls in the air.
Yeah.
if you were to minimize or limit my options down to who lives around me, there would be like 3 people.
But maybe that's what you need.
Facts.
Like
that's what I'm kind of. But then going back to all the other shit that we talked about with the vibe and the feeling easy and the, you know, whatever. You do meet those people that live maybe not right by you, but maybe like a couple hours from you or an hour plane ride or something like that. So then you start to go like, maybe I can make that work because like they make me feel so comfortable and they're just like my mom and the sexual and this and that. But, or maybe you go that route and you say, like you just said, fuck it. No more long distance at all. Even if it takes me 2 more years to find the person, I want them that live right here. You know what I mean?
I think your situation is unusual. Like you have more options than most people that I talk to. So I am trying to just like adapt it for that. So maybe if we say that you're an unusual person, your radius should be slightly larger. I'm not as focused on that. I think kind of going back to that prompt I gave you before where I was like, you win $10 million if in 6 months you find a girl and you marry her. The reason I like that question is you would just realize that I don't have to find the perfect jewel that I haven't found before. I just have to pick somebody and make it great. And that's so much of dating that people get confused by, is that it's not about spending your whole life finding the perfect person. It's about picking somebody and putting the work in to make it that great relationship. And so if I gave you that 6-month challenge, I actually think that you would find somebody and build the relationship with them. But if you don't have a timeline like that, you could spend the next 10 years looking. And the problem with that is that then you've spent half your life not with somebody. And like, I love being married. I love having somebody that knows all my stories and that I have a family with and things like that. So it's like at a certain point, you just have to say like, I'm going to pick somebody and make it work.
So what do you think about the word? And I'm not saying I'm for it or against it. And I know it comes up a lot in here, but the whole world says this word a lot, settling. So, you know, what are your thoughts on
settling is a trigger word for many people because when I say it to my clients or they say it to me, they're like, Logan, you want me to settle? You don't think I'm deserving of the best person? Like my friend got so-and-so, why do I have to settle? I'm like, I really don't think it's about settling. I think it's about choosing the important things, doubling down on those things and compromising on the things that matter less. So you've said some things that really matter to you. Like, I think the sexuality thing is great and you should lean into it. It's like you're a sexual person. Find somebody that knows their body. Find someone that makes that a priority in their relationship. Great. Go with that. You talked about certain looks thing that you wanted. That's all fine. But then in other areas, can you compromise on them? And so it's not about settling. It's about knowing what you want, doubling down on it, and compromising on the other traits.
Looks like we got to get a cleaning lady. Nah, I'm playing. So there was that. There was the maybe self-monitoring and limiting the options, because obviously there's like a lot of them. So it's like the discipline to do that.
Like, this thing,
the distance.
It was like kind of a cliche, but it was like, Steve Jobs like only wore the same thing every day because he didn't want to use his brain to say, what am I going to wear today? He's eliminating options so he can focus on more important things. I think we all have to understand that the environment in which we make our decisions really impacts the decision. So if you're on a trip and you already packed a few things, it's actually easier to get dressed because you're just choosing from a few things. So knowing that you are in a unique situation where you have seemingly infinite options, that's kind of messing with your brain a little bit. Limiting that, whether it's through geography, through age or something else, can actually help you make better decisions.
Like I said, once you limit the geography of it all, and that's another thing with the self-awareness of the following the girls and stuff. Like anytime I see girls in, probably a couple of years ago, if I saw a girl in like Germany or something, I'd be like, oh, maybe she's my wife, But now it's like I self-eliminate like a lot of people just based on just where they live.
Right. It's not that I'm saying the girl in Germany couldn't be your wife. It's that many people could be your wife.
Yeah.
You need to at some point say, I'm just going to make a choice. Because like you have not made a choice.
Do you believe in soulmates?
I don't believe in soulmates. I think you can have many lives with many different people and you get to choose one story. And it's like, okay, I'm living my life with this person. He has pros, he has cons. Let's see where it goes. I could have chosen a different person and had a different life, but there's no perfect choice.
I agree with that
And
completely.
I think that we get so stressed when we're like, I have to make the perfect choice. And like, I am a perfectionist in many ways. Like, I didn't have curtains in my house the first 6 months I lived there because I couldn't choose the perfect curtains. I'm like, just get the fucking curtains. There's no perfect curtain. So I know what it is like to be really feel like paralyzed by it. But with dating, I think if you think you're looking for your soulmate, it makes it much harder.
For sure.
Instead, just thinking, who is somebody great where I can accept their flaws, I like who they bring out in me, and I can build a life with this person.
Yeah.
That's like the prom shit. When you're looking for like the spark.
Yeah.
Did you ever read the book, A Road Less Traveled? It was like a sort of like mental health book, but there's a lot about that too. Like just the drug and the rush versus like who's going to be like the long, steady companion and what's going to make you happier in the end. So someone might not feel like this is my soulmate right away, but I feel like almost you could like build your soulmate.
Yeah.
That 100%. I think that's beautiful. You don't find the perfect relationship, you build the great relationship. But that's why I just do think Sienna's point about about Instagram like is insightful because you know about like dopamine in your brain?
Yeah.
It's like when I was on TikTok for the first time, I couldn't sleep at night because my brain had been like so flooded with dopamine that I couldn't sleep. I was like overstimulated. And I think that when we are on social media, there can be so much overstimulation, even when we don't think about it. We're like, I have 10 minutes to kill while I'm waiting for my Uber. It's like that stuff does impact you. And so I have this concept of dating like a scientist, which is like, what do you think is true? Go test it, see if it's true. If it's not true, do something else. So like you could do 1 month where you don't log into Instagram. I know you probably have professional things, but you can get somebody else.
Yeah.
Like not DMing and stuff like that.
Just take a month break from Instagram and see how it feels. If after 3 weeks you are like, nah, I feel the same, fine, you can go back. But just doing some experiments in your life. I'm only going to date in a small radius.
Right.
I'm only going to date people who are like my mom. I'm only going to date, and then see how it feels. Because if not, you're just going to be doing the same thing over and over again. So I think doing some dating experiments could actually help you figure out the next stage.
Yeah.
And maybe we can get me on Hinge.
Well, like my boyfriend's For You
I can do a
page.
preferred one.
My boyfriend's For You page is all like dogs and like tech stuff. And I do think that that's helpful.
I totally agree.
Yours is a hot woman.
The
and
algorithm.
You can actually get these women. That's also another added
My algorithm
factor.
is all it's I had a joke about this, didn't really work though. But it was like boobs and babies because I have a niece and nephew. So all day long, me and my sister send baby videos to each other.
Yeah.
But then, like I like girls' pictures. So here's the trap. I like the girls' pictures not because of some addiction thing or not because of some I want to have sex with them thing. I like their pictures because I'm trying to initiate some kind of conversation and meet them to date them for real. Like I'm actually there, like it looks like a fuckboy thing, but I'm actually there looking for a wife. But that gets you caught up in an algorithm that sends more and more girls. So I'm just saying that's my intention behind doing it.
Yeah, that sucks. That is.
If you
really
looked at my algorithm a couple of years ago, or like a year ago, like those girls, I mean, I don't want to sound mean, but they looked different than the ones that I'm liking now.
They're younger now.
No, they're like wifey.
Oh yeah, we haven't even talked about age yet.
Yeah.
Are you dating girls that are too young?
I don't know. I mean, I like.
Sienna nodded.
Part of she's always gonna take the thing that makes me look worse. If I was to do what you did and like just make the what'd you call it? Like get more specific and eliminate certain other factors, like self-monitor.
Date like a scientist,
Date like exactly. Then I would probably stick to like a more certain age group. I just never did that. I was like, oh, if I find a girl beautiful who happens to be 25 years old, let me just try it because maybe she has a different kind of mindset. Because you can meet girls that are 35 years old that don't have my same mindset. You know what I mean?
That's true. But like, I would argue that like, if you're looking for what you were calling kind of the suburban, more ready to settle down or more caretaking of you, it's slightly more likely that a person would be a bit older.
Especially
because
not in the suburbs. They're like that at like 22 over there.
Yeah,
in the city, when they're younger, they have a different mindset.
City, like in this urban environment, people tend to get married later. So if you're serious about marriage, then dating someone over a certain age, it's not like you can't date someone younger. It's like you're trying to increase the likelihood that the person wants the same thing you do. So dating a little bit older is a good strategy.
Like
I'm learning that.
I have a lot of friends my age, and I'm like, some are super rich, some are not, whatever. I'm the only one that's like, oh, I want to get married in the next couple years.
Right. So what if your man was like, I'm not going to go on a date with her because she's 20. How old are you? 24?
I just turned 25 last week.
So what if he was like, I'm not going to go on a date with her because she's outside of my age radius?
What do you mean? Like they want a girl my age?
If you only said like on paper, someone's a certain age, so I'm going to eliminate them.
Yeah.
Then he wouldn't have went on the date with you.
Yeah, but my boyfriend's also 26, so he just wanted to date someone his age. But the girls my age don't want to get married. Like everyone thinks I'm crazy for that.
And I'm not advocating for dating 25-year-olds. Like, I mean, 25 is not that young to me.
If you're, you can't go on infinite dates. If you're just trying to be strategic about who you date, dating people like.
Oh, I bet I can.
Yeah, you can, but you don't want to. So it's like, I'm not going to give you a number, but maybe dating people over a certain age, there's just a higher likelihood that those people have their fun and now their friends are getting married and having kids. So they want that too. So it's like, if you're just trying to get to the end state of marriage faster, that's one strategy.
Right.
Of course, there are 25-year-olds like Sienna that want to get married sooner, but if most aren't, it'll just take longer to find the one that is.
I understand. But like I said, I think that your algorithm is going back to that. Your algorithm is kind of like a reflection of like who you are.
Yeah.
Instagram. And, when I was more in my sexual type of mode where that was like priority to me, it was a lot of like sexual type of beings, I feel. And now if you look at the algorithm, although I still agree it's not completely healthy and I want to transition away from that, they're not like sexual type of vibes. It's more like fashion and cute and like wifey like type of vibes because I'm liking their pictures to try to meet them and date them.
Is this crazy? But could you just DM them so that you're...
I try to always do like the old back in the day like Facebook poking because that works. Like if you just DM someone like 90% of the time, like I'm not going to get a response. Yeah. But if I like them and they like me back and then we hit each other with a couple follows.
I also feel like the girl that you are talking about that you actually like, it was not on social media like that. Like she's not really posting pictures like that of her.
I agree.
Like the suburban girl who wants to get married at 25 is not like.
I agree, but again, do you have to eliminate the people that are doing that?
See, I feel like we're kind of getting to a core issue, which is you want a lot of options. And then when we start talking about cutting down options, it feels scary to you. And that's just a mindset. It's like, just think about the culture we live in, right? Like you go to Starbucks and there's like infinite drinks. You go to Amazon and you can get any type of thing.
So many movies.
Yeah, like Netflix. It's like we live in a world where there's many, many, many options. And in some ways that's great. But for you at this moment in your life, I think it's holding you back. So I would do a bunch of things to eliminate more options, whether it's only talking to a certain number of people at a time, taking the break from Instagram, only talking to people in a geographic radius, because you'll always have that desire for more options. But so far, that hasn't really helped you out.
And then probably just accept that you like if the fear inside of the voice in your head is saying like, oh, you might be missing out on XYZ, just accept that.
100%. I think that's such a big part of maturity is being like, I stayed in tonight and I didn't go to this party. A part of me
I do that every night.
a part of me wonders how that is. And then the other part of me is like, no, I know myself and I made this choice.
Yeah.
Right.
And just consistently having a voice in your head that's like, of course there's other options, but I know myself and I made this choice. It's about it's not about making the perfect choice. It's about how you feel about the choice that you've made.
Yeah. And I just feel that the reason why I push back so much is because the weight of having a life partner and having kids with somebody seems like such a monumental thing. You know what I mean?
It is. And I think you're giving it the right amount of respect that it deserves. I'm not saying like, who cares? Like marry somebody and have it. No, it's like I treat marriage as a really important ritual and it is a big commitment. But I don't think the way to have the best possible marriage is the infinite search. I think it's being the best person you can, finding somebody who's great, building that life with them. I love what you said, building a soulmate. And if you have the building a soulmate mindset, it puts less pressure on the search.
With the things that are important to you, like you said, you know. All right. Well, I have a lot to think about. This was good. I hate you, Sienna.
I love you, Sienna.
She just has the totally wrong idea
I'm the
of me.
penthouse, so
Yeah. I didn't say anything about your things that you like. Okay, so Logan, where can people find you? What do you want to plug and promote?
People can find me at Logan Ury on Instagram and they can get my newsletter, Logan's Love Letter. And then, of course, they should find their life partner on Hinge.
So and then like you work with people too? Like if
I work with people as a coach and I teach classes and then people, if they like the sound of my voice, they can get the audiobook for How to Not Die Alone. They can get the non-audiobook.
Okay, well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, this was great. Thanks for being open, Sienna. Thanks for keeping us honest.
I tried. She didn't. I had to keep correcting her because that's what you thought was happening.
I love it.
Okay. Guys, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.
Yay.
We did it.
It was good.
Yeah, it was really good. What's up, guys? If you like the episode, please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. We are building this thing from the ground up, so we need your help, and hopefully we can make this really big one day. Love you.